Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Gunpla Network News. As always, I'm your host, The Spicer, and today is all about Gundam Seed and the new Gundam Seed Freedom movie. It is released in Japan and has done quite well, but before we get into any of the details, it's important to let you know this video is brought to you by none other than those fine folks over at Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all things Plamo and Gunpla here in North America. With a vast catalog, they restock regularly, a private warehouse option, and flat-rate shipping to the US and Canada. They're going to have whatever you need. So when you're checking that vast catalog and placing that next order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network to save yourself 10% off. So as I said at the top, the Gundam Seed Freedom movie came out and has been pretty successful, at least from what we can tell, raking in over more than 500,000 viewers in its opening weekend and accumulating 1.06 billion yen, which is about $7.16 million USD. That's not bad by any means. So the movie's doing well, at least in Japan. It is going to come out in other regions. We just don't really know specifically which ones and when, but an anticipated global run should be later this year. Now, the movie itself is kind of a continuation from Gundam Seed Destiny, so all the characters we saw in that played a pivotal role pretty much show up in this. So that's kind of all we really know. Their independence movements, Blue Cosmos is still around, which kind of makes sense. And they're kind of different factions vying for power. And that is effectively Gundam Seed anyway, but that's what this movie's kind of centered around. They released a bunch of new line art for new machines. We kind of got the initial wave, the Rising Freedom, the Immortal Justice, the Gelgoog, the Gien. But we now have line art for everything else for the most part. We've got the Zagok, which is probably the most blatant ripoff from the UC. It's just the Zagok with a horn. The Infinite Justice Type 2 exists and is interesting looking. We'll talk about that later. The Duel and Buster Gundams are coming back. That's pretty sick. We get a more full frame of the ship. We get a better view of the ship that's used, and it's not the Archangel or the Minerva. But probably the most disappointing, which is why I went on this whole little tirade, we got line art for the Murasame Kai, which is piloted by Mulaflaga, and dear God, have they massacred my boy. It looks so bad, and I really hope this version of the Murasame never gets a kit, because I know line art looks kind of deceiving, but this is like the actual 3D render. This is not like the line art. This is actually the model based, or at least based on the model that we see in the movie, and it looks horrible. Yeah, I don't like it at all. So sorry, fellow Murasame fans, but they've massacred our boy. Anyway, into the news. So starting off with the high-grade 1144 scale Gelgoog Menace, set to release in March of 2024 for a price tag of 3,190 Japanese yen. And this is pretty much all the same imagery and information, at least pertaining to the kit itself, not necessarily its release date, that we had seen before. It looks good. There's nothing that has changed about this that has me concerned. The red might be a little brighter than we were anticipating, but that could also just be how it's photographed, so who's to say, but it still looks really solid. Now, next up, we have the high-grade 1144 scale Black Knight Squad Raduro A, set to release in March 2024 as well, with a price tag of 2,970 Japanese yen. And this is just like the green grunt suit we have seen. So same visuals that we received earlier when the initial wave of model kit announcements came out. It looks like this is maybe a little bit more of like an out-of-box build, which is also still pretty impressive. It's a lot glossier, so that's probably just that the previous images were flat coated or top coated or something, and this is just more of an out of box look, but it still looks good. You get the sword, the shield, the beam rifle, the weird beam cape. Yeah, no, I mean, it still looks cool. These are cool bad guy suits. Then we also get the high grade 1140 scale Black Knight Squad Shiva A version again, once again. Set to release in February of 2024, so very quickly coming out, with a release date of 2,970 Japanese yen. And this is kind of like the boss suit, or at least the kind of grunt boss suit we get. It's a little different than all the other versions. Got beam sabers in its feet, a unique sword that looks a lot like the Halo Energy sword, cool grabby shield. I don't know what it is about these bad guys, and I think this one just makes it even more, but these kind of remind me of Beetleborgs for some reason, and I dig it a lot, but this is the unique version. It's got the gold frame, the twin beam sabers on one side. It's cool looking. This is still roughly, though, the same stuff we've seen already, just with more images and more information on its release. Then we get the high-grade Cosmic Era 1144 scale Anges Ganyan Storm with a release date of April 2024 and a price tag of 3,080 Japanese yen. And as we expected, this in plastic form looks much better than its line art, although I still am not really sold on that head. But the shield is cool. A little big, so I'm a little concerned of it actually being functional from a plastic perspective. But it looks good proportionally. You get a cool big beam axe like you got with the Zaku Warriors before. It has a heat whip, which is interesting because I don't remember the original Gian having a heat whip. Its beam saber looks a little wonky in my opinion, but that's just me. And then you get the cool spinny shield, so you get a pretty reasonable amount of accessories for what is effectively a very basic suit. But I am glad that they have not only just the shield and the beam saber, you get a random heat whip, you get the cool big Zaku Warrior axe. Like, I'm glad that came back, because that's probably like one of the coolest accessories we've gotten from Seed Destiny almost ever. Then we have the high-grade Cosmic Era 1144 scale Destroy Gundam, set to release in March 2024 for a price tag of 14,300 Japanese yen. And this is a big boy. I do remember when this is initially just like prototype images were shown, people were skeptical if this is actually 1144 scale, because Seed can be a little deceiving with its scaling sometimes. But yeah, this is another big one. It does have the full transformation. You get all of the beams. Like, if you're just in need, if you've got the money for whatever reason, and just in need of beam saber blades, you got a bunch of them here. This thing comes with a ton of them. But yeah, it's a cool inclusion. One of those things we probably were thinking, oh, we'll never see this because it's too big, and well, we actually got it. So that's really cool. Good on you, Gundam Seed and Bandai. Then we have the high-grade 1144 scale Infinite Justice Gundam Type 2 with a release date of June 2024 and a price tag of 3,080 Japanese yen. And this was what I meant when I said we'd talk about it a little bit later. So the legs have been redesigned a little bit. They're a little sharper. The shins were flatter before. You pretty much get rid of all of the lime green, which is a little disappointing because I kind of liked that. The shield and beam rifle seem to be the same. The torso is a little changed, but not drastically. A lot of this is just minor changes, but it does look quite different when you start looking at it. But noticeably, the biggest change is its backpack, its new Fatum unit, if you will. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but it's this weird X-Wing design that I love, and I love it because I know a ton of people are 100% going to start kit bashing this, and we might see some cool Code Geass kit bashes because they have some of that kind of X-Wing design. But from what I read, this is a unit designed to be better at ultra high speed combat, which I don't really understand why the X-Foil situation does that. And it does look like they're not locked into positions, so you kind of just maneuver these as you see fit. But yeah, I mean, I kind of I don't know how I feel, because I think if this was just a unit sold by itself, I would like it more, because I actually liked the Phantom unit from the Infinite Justice more as a part of the Infinite Justice, whereas this just seems like a backpack you could put with anything. But yeah, that's actually a pretty cool update, and I'm glad this is actually updated and not just like the Impulse Gundam Type 2 or whatever that is no different. We also have the high-grade Cosmic Hero 1144 scale Mighty Strike Freedom Gundam, set to release in May 2024 for a price tag of 2,970 Japanese yen. And as all of you had said, in our redesign series, we're getting a kind of secondary hero suit from the Rising Freedom, and it is the Mighty Strike Freedom. Now, if you go check on Gundam Seed's website, or Gundam Seed Freedom's website, you see the line art of this, as well as the version 2 Strike Freedom, and they look almost identical, save the backpack, and that's kind of it. Now, from the high-grade Cosmic Hero Strike Freedom we have, this is pretty different. Shoulders are different, torso looks to be different. The legs might be a hair different, and I think the forearms are a bit different, mostly because of the shield gauntlets. But outside of that, it's kind of the same. Once again, a bunch of minor changes, but these I think are a little harder to tell outside of the shoulders. Like I said, you get a katana with this one, a big black katana, that's pretty cool. We also have the Mighty Strike Pack. I can't remember what the name of this thing is. Freedom Defender, Mighty Defender, something like that. Yeah, it's cool. It's big, it's yellow, or gold, but, we know in plastic it's going to be that yellowy gold. And it looks like Big Bird Angel Wings, so getting a little bit closer to that Wing Zero vibe. It looks like it's all going to be kind of one interconnected piece. The white outside wings will move, but the big yellow chunk in the middle is going to be one piece, it looks like. Got some red stickers going through here. That's interesting. I'm not sure what that's going to be. And then you get the cool katana, which I'm really surprised having the red frame be so prevalent in Gundam Seed. This has not happened before, but here we are. Big cool katana. But yeah, I mean, everything else, it's Gundam Seed. It's the Strike Freedom, but with minor changes, just like the version 2 Infinite Justice. Then, of course, we also have the real grade 1144 scale Force Impulse Gundam Spec 2, set to release in February 2024, so coming up soon, for a price tag of 3,410 Japanese yen. And at least our initial assessment is seemingly still right. This is just the same real grade Force Impulse we already have. No new accessories from what we can tell. It's just toned down. They just took the saturation slider and just brought it down a little bit. And I mean, it looks fine. If you missed out on the real grade Force Impulse before, it's a great kit. I've reviewed it on the channel here. You can check that out. Pick it up. I mean, even with nothing being different, if you just missed it and you can't find a real grade Force Impulse for some reason, this is another good excuse to jump into it. And last and most definitely not least, we have the P Bandai High Grade 1144 scale Dark Dagger L, with a release date of April 2024 and a price tag of 1,650 Japanese yen. And this is one of those things we kind of knew was coming since the dagger exists, and there's not drastically a lot of physical differences between the dagger and Dagger L. And same to the same extent of the Dark Dagger L. And yeah, I mean, you get a cool bazooka that actually seems like it would be much more functional than the regular bazookas we get. You get the little beam rifle, little beam spray gun, and it's just in a cool darker tint. That's really it. But once again, as with everything we've talked about today, featured in Gundam Seed Freedom, so of course it's going to get a model kit released. Just a little sad it's P Bandai. But yeah, we've got a lot coming out. Let me know in the comments down below, what are you excited for out of this movie? Do some of these designs stand out as weird, or do you like some of the changes that have made to some of the existing suits, or even the kind of UC pullovers? Anyway, thanks for sticking with me, guys. I truly appreciate it. As always, friends, I've been the Spicer here for the Gunpla Network. Do your best to stay safe and keep on building.